Nation. Welcome to another edition of the WiseTake NBA DFS Early Look. CK013 here. You can find me on Twitter at CK_013. And of course, I'm from the WiseTake Nation, which you can find on all the social media platforms listed below, or directly at wisetake.com if you're looking to take your DFS game to the next level. If you're new to the channel, welcome. We do all sorts of free DFS content right here on YouTube and Twitch. So whatever platform it is that you prefer, please like, subscribe, follow, whatever it is. Hit the like button. The likes really help us out. Notifications bell on. Must. So you don't miss out again. We do NFL shows, MLB in the summer, and of course, we'll be doing NBA 5 days a week, Monday through Friday, through the regular season as well. Obviously, it's getting a head start on preseason. I think there's definitely an edge in the preseason. I thought we did pretty good yesterday. Right, we talked about Steph Curry, Fox. We talked about stacking up that game. Things worked out for the most part. There were a couple key players. Shout out to PAULIE on the Y stream, which is our pre-lock show for our premium members at wisetake.com. Paulie did talk about that Spurs kid. I forget his name, but he did point him out. He did emphasize him, and ended up being a really, really awesome value play and something you kind of needed towards the end of the stretch. Even with the Golden State stuff, you needed that one guy that really went out and crushed. So hopefully you guys did well. I know a few of our members did all right, and it was a pretty good day for me. I think Paulie did all right too. It's nice, the first two slates I was kind of like in the top at the beginning, and then I had the silver thing kind of screwed me, and then towards so I started off like up here, then by the end of the night I'd be at the bottom. Not literally, but just like right on that borderline. And this was different. This was, it's always nice. I always like going to the late games. They're usually lower owned. Not in a preseason 3-game slate necessarily. There was a lot of ownership there. But in general, you'll see during the regular season, people do typically avoid the late games. And I think we'll see that today. That may be the right strategy. But I think we'll see that today because there's so much uncertainty in the late games. And there's a lot in the early games, but you figure we'll probably know some of that because they start first, right? So even with late swap, a lot of people don't take advantage of the late swap. They don't want to deal with it. They don't have time to deal with it. So, find an edge where you can. Get in where you fit in, as they say. But yeah, looking to build off yesterday. I think we have a pretty good slate today. We have Tibbs on the slate, which is always nice. And he's been living up to his reputation playing his guys' minutes. But we have a lot of for a 4-game slate, there's a lot of news that we're actually waiting for, especially with the Cleveland team. The good news that Cleveland does appear, not appear. Cleveland is the first game, so we should have a lot of that news. But we'll just go ahead and get into it. Okay, Cleveland will go first. So we'll go team by team here. Cleveland playing the Knicks. 211.5 is the total. Knicks are currently 1-point favorites. All right, let's see. So the Cavs have 4 total preseason games. They've already played 2. So they have 2 more, and they're both going to be against these Knicks. Currently, Colin Sexton is questionable. Kevin Love is questionable. Larry Nance is out. Kevin Porter Jr. is questionable. Matthew Dellavedova is questionable. Cedi Osman is questionable. JaVale McGee is out. It's a lot of injury news. In the first game, Andre Drummond and Kevin Love both played around 14 minutes. Thon Maker, who was signed to a training camp deal, played 27 minutes. In the second game, Maker saw a huge reduction in minutes. Drummond went up to 23. Kevin Love missed because he's got like a sore Achilles or some shit. So Cleveland's kind of all over the place. We really don't know a whole ton of what they've been doing. They've played certain guys' minutes. Guys like Garland has played pretty big minutes. This Isaac Okoro kid, 4,200, has played big minutes. I think he's played 61 minutes across the first 2 contests. But again, they've had injuries. They've had guys out, and obviously, like Kevin Porter Jr. is one of the guys you would think that when he's available, they're going to want to see play a little more in his second year. So again, the news kind of keeps us on the hinges here. I do think that it's interesting that Drummond went from 14 to 23 minutes. That would lead me to believe that maybe he gets more like 24 to 26. Maybe even if it's the same at 23, I think it's decent for the spot, especially if Kevin Love is out. We know JaVale McGee is out, obviously, and Larry Nance is out. So Nance being out is also pretty big. I think Nance being out and McGee being out could make Thon Maker back in play at 4K, the thin man, as we like to call him. It would help if Kevin Love was out. Then I'd really feel better about it. But again, it's hard to really say commandingly without injuries. Now you can see with Isaac Okoro, If Kevin Love, we already have there Lance, and Cedi Osman missed, then obviously, yeah, O'Rourke's going to get another big slew of minutes. So it's a guy we got to keep an eye on. Damian Dotson, I think, played 30 minutes in their most recent game. Former Nick revenge spot. We know he's a shooter. So again, this is all contingent on some of these guys. A lot of guards. Colin Sexton's a big one, right? Matthew Dellavedova, they got to get him sometime if he's going to play this year. So again, Cleveland's really up in the air. We should have some more of that information. Again, Garland played big minutes a little later. Hopefully by the Wise stream, our pre-lock show. And again, I advise you guys to get a day pass if you haven't checked this out at WiseTake.com. $2.50 all the cost. You'll get access to PAULIE's Fast Break, which is a little sheet. We have a quick sheet to kind of help you. Has a cash core, GPP core, favorite game stacks, all the alpha play of the day, which yesterday was Steph Curry, all that kind of shit. Real quick. And then when the regular season starts, obviously we'll have our projections up, our cheat sheets. I'll be writing an article as well, so we'll have the full go then. But in the meantime, for preseason, we're still doing the pre-lock Wise stream, which we start about 45 minutes prior to the slate locking, and then we kind of take you literally up to lock, unless it's like crazy dead. But we do the shows Monday through Friday, so make sure take advantage of that. Check it out, $2.50. All right, that's enough of the plug. I'm sorry. Going on to the Knicks side. So the Knicks, I mean, Tibbs have lived up. Like I said, Tibbs has lived up to his reputation. RJ Barrett played 36 minutes in his last game after playing like 28 or something like that in the first one. Barrett balled out. In the first game, he started off the game shooting terribly, finished kind of strong in the fourth quarter or whatever. This last game, he shot really well. 1 for 5 from 3. The Knicks can't really shoot threes well. Something to keep in mind going forward. But he was 10 of 17 from the field, 4 or 5 from the free throw line. Cleveland was not a good defense. They were literally one of the worst defensive efficiency teams in the league last year. RJ Barrett, certainly a candidate. He seems to be like Tibbs is looking to develop him and kind of help him take that next step. So even at 5'5", I think he's definitely in play. I mean, a lot of these Knicks are. Julius Randle's probably, as you can tell by the cover boy today, the most solid way to go. You would think he's got a pretty solid floor. We know his usage looks good when he's on the court. In the most recent game, Randle did play decent minutes. He even played some into the fourth at times in the first game. And in the second game, he got 32 minutes. So, yeah, he was 4 for 11 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, 9 for 12 from the free throw line, 6 boards, 5 assists, a steal, 18 total points. So, yeah, Randle at 6'6" seems too cheap. I don't Tibbs has a reputation. It's not like, I don't think it's a fluke, right? He's got a reputation of playing his guys big minutes, and I think he's trying to prepare these dudes to play those minutes. So, I expect a lot of these starting Knicks to get full run. Not all of them necessarily, but I do expect them to. For instance, the center, Mitch Robinson, Noel's gotten the start. He played bigger minutes the first game. I think it was, 25 minutes the first game, only 20 in the second. Mitch Robinson has shown foul trouble tendencies once again. We know he's got massive upside, but he's shown, he's shown issues with that. And Tibbs is still back and forth with who's going to start at the 5. He likes them both for rim protection. Tibbs a big defensive guy, but he's not even sure yet. So that makes me a little concerned to come anywhere like heavy here. Obi Toppin off the bench. This is another one. Like, he seems to be like decent peripherally, right? So you can see in the first game he played 20 minutes off the bench, got 7 boards, right? Let me just check real quick what he did in the second game, minutes-wise. In the second game, he got 24 minutes, 4 points, 4 rebounds, 1 assist. So it wasn't great, but he did see more minutes, and we know he's capable. Even if he's not scoring, he's capable of getting boards. The 5'8" price tag should keep him relatively low owned for a good reason. That just seems it's risky for tournaments, right? Austin Rivers doesn't have a tag, but he's been out. He's been like dealing with a groin. I don't think he's practiced once. So even if he were to play, I just don't think he'd play much. It could affect the rotation maybe. But I'd be surprised if he even did a play at this point. He hasn't practiced once, from what I understand. Elf is a tricky one, right? The Cavs have not been good against point guards defensively with Sexton and Garland. Now, I think that there have certain guys that could change that, like Satoransky, I think, is over there, but he's out. But Elf is considered to be the starter going into the week, but we don't know for sure. And in the last game, I mean, I think he is going to start, but in the last game, he only got 18 minutes. That was concerning. He decided to play DSJ 17 minutes. He did get 9 minutes in for Quickly, which Quickly didn't play in the first game. So I'm wondering if that was a direct You know, you do the math, 9 more minutes for Peyton. Peyton's at what, 27 minutes? So I think it could be something like that. Maybe everybody lost a couple, but Elf seemed to have lost the most. So I think he's in play for tournaments because in the first game, he did play a pretty good amount of minutes. And I do think he's considered the starter going, for the time being. So I think he's certainly in play. And we know last year, him and Randall were a really good pairing at times. So yeah, a lot of Knicks. RJ Barrett I like. Julius Randle. Let's put these guys to the side. Are probably the two that I feel the most comfortable with at the moment. But I think working some of these guys in throughout, you can get creative if you'd like, is going to be beneficial because we know Tibbs likes to play his guys. And this Cleveland team is not very good defensively. So definitely keep an eye on some of these Knicks. The mid-range on DraftKings, that Elf range, is, I don't want to say deep because it's not like, but there's options there. It'll make you think. But I do think that the Knicks will be popular, and I think that getting exposure to them is, at least some, is smart. The question is which ones. That's going to make the difference. And I think pricing has a lot to do with that. Randall seems by far to be the best option there. Over to Chicago. So this is pretty interesting with Chicago. All right. So they've got 6 players that didn't even travel with the team. So they have 13 active players right now. Devon Dotson, Makoka, Satoransky's here. I'm sorry, Chicago. My bad. So yeah, expect Cleveland to suck against point guards once again. Garrett Temple, Denzel Valentine, Thad Young. None of them went. Even made the trip. Okay. So it's interesting because we've seen Levine and White already kind of start to see some minutes, and the usage rates for those guys have been awesome. Not just from scoring, from the scoring aspect, but assists, everything. Especially White, he's getting a ton of assists. In this most recent game, the Bulls played Lauri Markkanen 26 minutes, Otto Porter 24, Carter 23. Kobe White played 32 minutes. Levine played 27, and I think that's, their way of kind of ramping guys up for what they're going to have to do in the regular season. I expect a lot of these, like White and Levine, to play a lot. Together and staggered. In the first game, just to give you an idea, Levine played 23. So he went from 23 to 27. Kobe White went from 23 to 32. So I think, or whatever it was, I think we see something similar, especially because they're shorthanded as it is. They do have 4 total preseason games to get through. So even if they push their guys a little bit here, there's still an opportunity for them to maybe, if they get certain guys back, take it a little bit easier on the way back. So yeah, needless to say, Kobe White and Levine look like pretty decent options here. And I think Wendell Carter is also somewhat interesting. Remember, OKC does not have Steven Adams anymore. So I expect them to be a little bit different against setters. They have Hal Horford, who's not really, like, in my opinion, a true big. But anyway, yeah, I think even Markkanen, I think, is in play. I mean, it's hard to click him over Randall. He'll have significantly less ownership. But yeah, Levine and Kobe White seem to be the mainstays here. And I expect them to both be popular for good reason, especially with all the injuries that we have. And I think we should definitely strongly consider playing them as of 11 a.m. The OKC side. So this one's also gotten a little different. I don't think they total or anything. With the preseason's form, this could get us in podcast stream shape. 219.5 total. So it is significantly higher than the Knicks, which is just a low total. And OKC 1.5 at home. Okay. So Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is where we're starting here. I think the Thunder's only played one game. Yeah, they played one game. It was against the Spurs. They've only got 3 total, so this is game number 2. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander only played 20 minutes in the first game. The thing is, they are expected to get a few people back, I think, right? Basley and Horford. Ariza was out for personal issues. We haven't heard anything, so we're just kind of assuming he's out. Horford apparently had his first practice with the team on Monday. So it'd be very surprising to see him get any substantial minutes. So maybe that, either way, any minutes you're taking away in preseason is tough. With Basley being back, that could also affect some things minute-wise. We do have Ty Jerome, Darius Miller, Josh Hall all out. That helps. But still, I think the only one that I really feel all that comfortable with. Now, okay, so I shouldn't say the only one. Shai, 6'2", in that price range. I would expect Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, considering the role we expect him to have this year, I would expect that he would get more run. The Bulls don't have Chris Dunn and some of those guys. I mean, you mentioned Satoransky's out, so I expect them to struggle. Like Kobe White, Levine. These aren't guys that I've ever really considered to be good defenders. So I expect them to be kind of weak at this position defensively. 6'2" for Shai Gilgeous-Alexander for the usage he's getting. He was only 5'9". He was chalky at 20 minutes, and he actually did pretty well in those 20 minutes. Now imagine, for another $300, you may be able to unlock more. Maybe he plays 24 minutes. Even that 4 more minutes, I think, is worth the 300 points based off the pace he was going. $300, I mean, based off the pace he was going. So yeah, I do expect Shai to get some run, at least some. I do like him. He's probably my favorite. Hamidou Diallo came through for us big in the last game. The return of some of these guys makes me a little bit worried. Not so much for the minutes. Maybe Basley could somehow affect them, but I think more so for the usage, right? But we saw it in the last preseason, man. He balled out last preseason too. And again, I don't expect Horford to play a ton. Basley's this is his first game. How much is he going to play when they were conservative with pretty much everyone else, except for Diallo and Theo Maledon? Theo Maledon had a real big. That's the thing about it is last time they did play guys minutes. It just wasn't necessarily the starters, right? Frank Jackson played 24 minutes and had a good game. Pakusevsky played 23 minutes, had a really good game. 8 rebounds, 14 assists. 14 points. So this is one of the teams that are kind of up in the air, but also one of the teams where you could probably find some value because a lot of these guys that did play are cheap. You just don't know which ones are going to continue to get that run. Theo Maledon, this guard right here, 4K, played 29 minutes, got 20 points, 5 rebounds, 2 assists. So I feel like if Shai gets more minutes, it's going to directly impact him. If Shai does not get too many more minutes, he should be in line for something close. He's a young guy. They're taking a look at him. So again, maybe we could spot some value here on OKC, but we're going to have to follow the beat reporters and see what we can come up with. Muscala looked really good, but again, we got Horford back, and he ended up only playing like 17 minutes. TJ Leaf only got 17 minutes, so they were reluctant to play certain people, but it is interesting that Theo got 29. I expect that to change. I expect to see Shai Gilgeous-Alexander play closer to like 22, 24. He got to get some kind of increase, right? They got to get him ready. Isaiah Roby, who drew the start, he could also be in flux. He played 25 minutes, had a pretty good game. So this may be, this was where to get the value from last time they were on the slate. We have a couple guys back who should be limited. It's going to have some kind of effect, just not totally sure what that's going to look like. So hopefully for the pre-lock show later, we have a better idea based on following reports on what their strategy is going to be. Situation. What's up, man? My bad. I haven't even looked at the chat, so I'm popping in here real quick. Mongo says did my first slate last night, no research. I'm all in on Boro. Hey, I feel you, man. I feel you. Boy Jeff says Tibbs is not all the way sold on Mitch. Robbie, I think Tibbs likes Noel for sure. Yeah, I agree. I did see some interviews, and I think he knows the organization and the Knicks fans like Mitch Rob, so he's trying to work with them. But reports are that Mitch Rob came into camp out of shape. He's still getting into foul trouble through these first couple preseason games. And Noel, man, is playing like a guy who's hungry, like a guy that was supposed to be a top pick, and he was, and didn't live up to it. That's what he's playing like. So I agree. I do think he likes Noel a little bit more. All right. Let's keep it moving, and then maybe we'll pop in and ask some questions. Let's keep it moving for now. So, Portland, Denver. That's pretty interesting. So Portland really didn't play their guys very much, right? In that first game they had. Let me just pull up their box quick. Okay, they've had 2, both against. So in the first game, Covington played 26. Derrick Jones Jr. played 28. Those are 2 guys that started. But Dame played 22. McCollum played 20. Gary Trent played 28. Harry Giles played 25. Melo played 23 off the bench and had a. Now, the second game, while most people are looking to stretch their players out, so to speak, as we say in baseball, or condition their players, Portland kind of took the opposite approach. So Covington played 27. Jones played 26. Nurkic was back making his first appearance. He only played 13. That's okay. That's expected. But McCollum played 14 and Dame played 13. So that was confusing. Gary Trent played 34. So Harry Giles once again played 26 and balled out, even though I'm hearing that he's kind of the odd man out now that the Blazers are kind of healthy. With Nurkic back, Kanter, it sounds like Giles is kind of the odd man out, which is a damn shame because he's really played well. But yeah, so it's a little concerning on what to do. Anthony Simons is highly questionable. I've heard reports that it's a hamstring and he hasn't been practicing, so he may miss. Maybe that'll force the hand a little bit more. But you've got like all these guys kind of floating around like Rodney Hood. It's really tough to get a full gauge, man. The pricing isn't particularly great if you don't know if these guys are getting minutes. So there's too much question marks. Obviously, Dame and McCollum and these guys, especially Dame, are in play for tournaments. On the off chance that they get pushed, really heavily, because there's always that off chance, there's always that possibility, especially on a 4-game slate. So I think you could take some shots with the Portland guys. Like I said, I'm most interested in Lillard. He's really the only one. Denver's kind of been a good defensive team. But yeah, this just Gary Trent's been playing big minutes. We just don't know a lot, and there's guys coming back opposed to guys being out. So it makes things even more weird. Again, Simons being out could help. Maybe we see Lillard and McCollum play a little bit more. They use this as an excuse to kind of get them some time. You would think they would want to step this up and guys ready for the regular season. But they do have 4 total preseason games. So if it's not this one, it could be the next one. But you don't know. Based off that trend, maybe they use today as like a dress rehearsal and then they just kind of punt the last one. I'm not sure. Or it could be the other way. So hopefully we get some more information. That's going to be a tough one at 9 o'clock. We probably won't have too much more information by the pre-lock show, but maybe we will. We'll let you know if we do. And if not, we'll try to pop it in the Slack. Slack was big yesterday. I was able to pop in there and tell everybody about Halliburton. We saw a report that he was only going to get 15 minutes. And Whiteside and Bagley were both getting 15 minutes. So I was able to pop in there. Hopefully people stuck with Rayshawn Holmes, even though some people bailed. I know, according to the field. So yeah, we got to utilize the Slack, work together, all that good shit. It's what we do at WiseTake Nation. All right. So Denver's a side that I am a little more interested in, and I'm looking for one of these late games to get in on. And we'll go into the Lakers-Phoenix, but the Lakers one I don't think is the Lakers team I don't think is. Denver side, kind of interesting. So let's take a look at guys. So Denver's played 1 preseason game so far, and they only have 3. So Michael Porter Jr. played 23 minutes. Paul Millsap 22. Jokic 23. Jokic balled the fuck out. 23 minutes. Gary Harris 24. Jamal Murray 24. So they played their starters pretty good minutes. They only have 3 games total. I don't see why they wouldn't want to play their guys again. Now Murray and Jokic played monstrous minutes in the playoffs. Just huge minutes. They were dealing with injuries, opt-outs, all that shit. So I can understand those two being taken kind of easy, and I was surprised they played as much as they did. But I expect them to play at least the same, if not more, being that there's only 3 total preseason games they're going to get. So I do like Jamal Murray a lot at 6,100. Will Barton is expected to play. We're not sure to what capacity. That's going to affect the usage rates for a lot of these guys. But I still think 6-1 for Murray is too cheap. I understand in the bubble he didn't have Barton. There was some guys missing, and he took advantage. But I do think that Jamal Murray is going to use that to kind of take his game to the next level going forward. Michael Porter Jr. I do like, right? He's a younger guy. I don't think he didn't really play all that much in the playoffs. He was getting fucking ripped up defensively. But this could be an opportunity for him to develop a little bit more. He did play 23 minutes in that first game. Didn't have a particularly good game. But Portland has historically struggled against forwards. Now, maybe Covington will change that a little bit, but Melo's not when he's in there. So I do like Michael Porter Jr. as well. I think he may carry some lower ownership because he's in that range with Randall. And while I think Randall is the better minutes play, I think Porter has a pretty solid ceiling for the expected ownership that I anticipate him getting. So I do like Porter. Millsap's okay. Everybody's okay. Jokic, obviously, 8,600, going up against a little bit of Nurkic. And then, Kanter? Maybe he sees Giles again. It looks like a good spot for Jokic on paper. It's just, again, if Malone decided to take it easy with Murray and Jokic specifically, I don't think anybody would be that surprised. We'd be pissed if you decided to play Jokic and Murray. Couldn't really be that surprised because that's kind of, number one, that's Malone's MO. Number two, you kind of understand it. They played big-ass minutes in the playoffs. Portland is not a good team defensively. They were not a good team defensively last year. So I think that as far as the late games go, right now the Nuggets are probably on the radar for me as one of the teams I like the most late game-wise. Because, I think a lot of the ownership is going to be in these first two games, the Knicks game and the OKC game, and rightfully so, because number one, we should have more news. Number two, we know OKC is pretty thin. We know the Knicks play their guys big minutes, and we could end up with a Cleveland team that's fairly thin depending on how the injury news shakes out. But yeah, the Bulls, 13 total players right now currently, so we expect big minutes from them. So again, I think you'll find these late two games have some, less ownership. Last game, so the Lakers, Davis and James are both going to make their debuts for this season. Everybody's saying that they're going to play the first half, which I think there's a possibility they do more, but I expect the first half also. Obviously, it's AD, LeBron. You want to take it easy. You're going to be riding them during the season. But it's annoying because I think it does affect guys like Schroeder, Montrezl Harrell, Kuzma, and it especially affects Horton Tucker, who I think in the second half will have an opportunity to play like how he's played. But in the first half, he's going to kill the uses for pretty much everyone, right? Because they're going to run the show. So that makes me nervous about rostering too many of the Lakers. Obviously, Montrezl Harrell is a beast. It just makes you uncomfortable with these two back, what this team's going to look like. So I'm not too big on the Lakers in general. I don't mind taking some shots on Horton Tucker, depending on what you think his ownership's going to be. If he's going to be chalk, I'm not interested on a slate like this. But if people are going to back off because AD and LeBron are here, I think there is a possibility that Tucker plays a lot of that second half if those two don't, and then gets a lot of that usage. But then again, once they're out, Schroeder's going to try to eat. Harrell's going to try to eat. Kuzma's going to try to eat. So there's just a lot up in the air at the moment. I will say this. Alex Caruso is out, or doubtful. He's doubtful. So maybe we do see Schroeder pick up some bigger second half minutes. Maybe we see some Quinn Cook. It's just a lot of variables, a lot of things we don't know, right? But I think Harrell, realistically, at 6'7", has upside. And I think even with those guys, could succeed even when he's on the court with like LeBron. Kyle Kuzma, again, another second half minute pickup candidate. And then Horton Tucker, like I said, is, maybe. We'll have to see what ownership is like. But the Lakers are kind of tough. The Suns have been playing guys. And they've said repeatedly that they were going to be cautious in the preseason, but they haven't really stuck to that. Chris Paul made his debut, and he obviously played limited minutes. But looking at the Suns, game one, Devin Booker played 24 minutes in that first game when he basically made it seem like nobody would see more than 20. Aiden played 22. Cam Payne, one of the newer guards, again, Paul was out, played 30, and then ended up getting hurt sore or some shit like that. In the second game, Mikal Bridges played 29 minutes. Ayton played 25. Booker played 28. So they're kind of ramping it up. Chris Paul in his first game played 18. So I think the Suns are another one we can consider. The Chris Paul, it's hard to envision him getting more than like 22 minutes. But Booker's gradually going up. So if you're under the impression that they're just working on building these guys, they do have 4 total games, so they'll have a second game against the Lakers after this one. But Devin Booker, while he is expensive, if he's going to he could play 28 minutes. So if he gets close to 30 today, it's not bad. Now, Chris Paul back and some other people that potentially take usage, there's some things at risk. But certainly on the table. Now, Crowder, Sarge, Cam Johnson, all questionable. That has some news, I think, for a guy like Jalen Smith, who started in the last game. I've heard reports that they want to see him. He's their draft pick. I've heard reports they want to see him play alongside Ayton a little bit, which is why they started him. So if those guys are in, it's going to affect the minutes for everyone at that position, including Jalen Smith. If those guys are out, I think that may leave the door open for Jalen Smith to play a little bit more. Looking at the Lakers team in general at center, like when Harrell's in there, I don't expect him to be as good defensively against bigs as they were last year with McGee and Howard. So DeAndre Ayton certainly on the table. He's another one that the minutes been trending up, 22, 25. Maybe he gets 30. I think he's definitely in play. So it's definitely the Suns side that I feel a little bit more comfortable with. But it's not like everyone, right? And we're going to need some news to kind of come here and determine what to do with some of these guys. So we may not have that. Be ready for late swap. Like I said, I think out of the late games, Denver seems to be my favorite right now. But I think that it's Denver, Phoenix, then I think Portland, Lakers, or something like that. But you're going to have to get through the first 2 games. There's a lot to like on those first 2 games. So appreciate you guys for hanging out with me here on this one. I'll roll through here. I think Moochie says Chris Paul or Alfred Payton on FanDuel. I would go with Elf because I think there's a possibility Elf plays more minutes. I don't think there's a big possibility that Chris Paul does. Let me see. SGA or Levine on FanDuel. Ooh, that's a good one. Man. I guess Levine, just because I think with that team being so thin, he's likely to play bigger minutes than he has in the last game. But to be honest, I do like them both, to be clear. Brennan says there was a quote from Malone a few days ago where he said he wanted to get them a more run this time due to the shortened preseason. Usually Malone pretty strong with his words, so there could be an edge there. Like I said, I think Denver is the way to go when we're looking for lower ownership, when we're looking for the late game exposure. I think there's going to be so much concentrated ownership on the Bulls, the Knicks, maybe even SGA, and maybe even some Cavs guy, because we're going to get those news late. So if we find out guys are thin, people may be rushing and jamming in some Cavs. So I think the later games will go lower own. And Denver seems to be, it's at least my favorite spot. Based off pricing, too. Not just like Jamal Murray's underpriced, right? So I do think that there's an edge with Denver a little bit, or there could be. Moochie says, do you like topping on the Knicks today? For tournaments only, I wouldn't trust him in a cash game setting because his role is undefined. His minutes are kind of up and down. But I think Tibbs wants to develop him, and I think he's so athletic, man. They play him like everywhere. They're trying to play him all over the place. So he could be in line for another good rebound game. We just don't know enough, and he's not. If he was cheap, I'd be like, fuck yeah, but he's not that cheap. So for tournaments only, I'd say I strongly prefer to stick with the other Knicks in a more optimal setting. I'm noticing a bunch of you hanging out with me, and I appreciate it, but only 5 likes. We got to do a little better than that. We got to do a little better than that, guys. So please hit the like button. That being said, we did the first look for NFL Week 15. NFL's coming to a close soon. We got to get it in. What when we had MG 115, I 117. Grand, that is. Grand. We've been doing pretty well this year with the NFL. Not last week. I had a terrible week last week, but doing well overall. Yeah, so hit the like button, subscribe to the channel. Go check us out at WiseTake.com. A day pass is $2.50. You can come try us out. Now, again, it's not the full experience, but for preseason, it actually requires more work. You're relying on much more information. You're taking more educated guesses. So, we do what we can for the preseason. Regular season comes, we'll be ready. We have our own projections that I use personally. Also, I make them and use them. We'll have, even on these shows, we'll be able to show some of the projections on the screen for the early look. And then, cheat sheets that are based off the projections to give you the top rated plays at each tier, each position. And then, of course, PAULIE is going to continue to fast break through the season. I'll be writing a slate breakdown / core plays type article. It's a lot. And we have the pre-lock show Monday through Friday, leading you up to lock, keeping you updated with news and all that good shit. So make sure you take advantage. Appreciate those of you who did hit the like. I will see, hopefully, most of y'all later tonight. And if not, then I'll have to catch y'all tomorrow. For myself, the entire WiseTake Nation, as always, good luck.
Yeah.